A whole lot happened on Friday, this last week. Joining us to look at all of that concerning some allegations about oil missing is the chairman, Integrated Oil and Gas, and former Minister of Interior of Nigeria, Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you join us. On Friday, all through the weekend, there were a whole lot of news making rounds concerning your company. Because the last time we had you on this program, we were talking about a non-payment of some monies owed some marketers, and we discussed at length on some of these matters. But concerning this episode that played out on Friday, could you please tell us what actually transpired?
Well, thank you very much. It's one of the most traumatic experiences I have been through. I was in Dakar, Senegal, late last week when a reporter called me from Nigeria to say, there is an issue on ground that your company, Integrated Oil and Gas, is linked to some allegation of stolen oil that is stored in his tanks. And I was very irritated when I heard it. I said, well, all these stories just never stop. What is this story about stolen oil being stored in someone's tanks? And I said, well, leave it. When I come back to Lagos, I'll see what happened. Well, I came back to Lagos. In fact, before I came back to Lagos, I was given information whilst I was still in Senegal that a team of armed men, about 30 or 40 of them, had assaulted our tank farm, violently assaulted the tank farm, ransacked the entire place, seized the workers there, laid them flat on the floor, cuffed their hands behind their backs, collected their mobile telephones, and carted a number of them away, first of all to NIMASA, and from that they took them from NIMASA to the State Security Service office. So when I got back on Friday morning, I had arranged a press conference because I asked what was going on, and they told me about it. I arranged to have a press conference at 12 o'clock on Friday. But a few minutes before 12 o'clock, I was so surprised I was in my office. Another squad of armed men, numbering about 30, laid siege in my head office in Marion Road, blocking the entire premises, refusing people access into or out of the premises. And eventually when I came down to ask them what was going on, they said, we're from the special task force, and we're looking for a man who has stored products in your tank. So, all right, well, listen, we know the name of the man and we know his company. This is the address, you take it. No, we won't take it. We need you to go and bring him. So we don't know how to bring him. This is the man who stored the oil. This is his name. This is his address. Please go and find him. Anyway, an argument ensues. And after some time, these guys seem to change because they're speaking all the time to somebody who must be giving them instructions. Well, we've changed our mind and we need to take you. I said, take me to where and for what? So no, we must take you. And I thought to myself, I could actually sit down here and say, well, there is no reason for you to take me anywhere and we would have some problems. So I said, where are you taking me to? And they bundled me to the NIMASA offices in Kirikiri, kept me there for so many hours. Whilst I was there, a gentleman, I think he's the managing director of GVWSL, a man called Tompolo, came in, had a look at me, and then went to the neighboring offices. I had gone there incidentally with my lawyers, and the next thing I heard, there was a negotiations as to whether or not I would be paraded, believe it or not, along with a number of suspicious characters that they had rounded up for the purpose. I didn't really know what the purpose of the parade was for, but subsequently I found out that they had concocted this story about stolen oil and the kingpins behind it. And the idea at that time was really to bring me and situate me in this context. It was horrible. And our lawyers continued to negotiate with them. And eventually I think the day was saved by intervention from the State Security Services in Abuja and the NSA's office, who insisted that there was to be no parade. And eventually they went on to hold a press conference, but the only difference was that instead of having me present there, they substituted my face and my name, and absolutely the speed at which this news went out, all throughout the weekend, it was former minister arrested for oil theft, listen, if you want to kill a man, you can kill a man by shooting him or by cutting him with a knife. And also, you can kill a man by the way that they treated me and falsely accuse me of something that I could never, ever have done.
You know, we've always talked about this oil issue here, but again, you know, this same matter you talked about, they say it wasn't you who stole, but someone brought. How does it operate when we talk about tank farms?
Well, thank you very much. Let me explain to you what actually happened. We run a tank farm, and we buy and store oil on our own account. And when business is slow for us and we're not buying and storing on our own account, we also can store for third parties. But in all cases, whether we store for ourselves or whether we store for a third party, we have to insist on getting clearances in respect of the product that is stored there. The clearances come from the Navy in the first instance, who have to check the source of oil and all of those things and give a clearance. The clearances come from the Ports Authority, who have to give you clearance to come into the port. The clearances have to come from the DPR, who have to give you clearance to land the product, and the clearances come from NIMASA itself.
So you have to see all of this.
You must see all of this before you store the products.
So in this case, about this said man, they talked about, did your company
the whole
verify
set of,
those clearances?
Absolutely, the whole set of documentation were there. Clearance from the Navy, clearance from NIMASA itself.
Even from NIMASA?
Yeah, even from NIMASA. Clearance from the Ports Authority, clearance to discharge the goods from DPR.
Did they leave you copies of this document?
They have to give it to us.
Or they take it away?
No, they have to give it to us.
And were these copies, the documents demanded from you?
They never asked for it. That wasn't the case at all. If it was a proper investigation, as they said it was, they would normally ask you, can we see this documentation? That wasn't what was demanded.
Did you offer to show them?
They never asked for it because we told them that if you want it, this is a file, we'll show you everything. If it was a proper investigation, they would not come to carry the chairman of the company. They would say, who's in charge of these operations? Let us see these documents. They never asked any of those questions. So they came specifically to pick up somebody, namely myself, to situate me in the context that I have explained to you, and to cause the maximum embarrassment and damage to my reputation possible.
It's all theft in Nigeria is a very serious issue, and I'm sure it's something that worries the federal government. You don't think that perhaps by any error whatsoever, you know, maybe there was, because they have the name of the vessel, does it correspond with the name that brought the oil into your tank farm?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there was no questions as to which vessel. It wasn't a ghost ship. We know the vessel. We know the owner of the vessel. The owner of the vessel is actually somebody that is well known to the chaps at NIMASA. So there was no question as to whether one ship or the other brought it. The important thing is this. If you say that you are tracing oil that you suspected to have been stolen, and you trace it through the Ports Authority, and Ports Authority have issued their permission for this vessel to come into port. I mean, if you have any questions, the first thing that you would want to do is to go and arrest the managing director of the Ports Authority. Then you trace it to the Navy, who issued the permission for this cargo to come into port. If you have any questions as to that, you probably would have to go and arrest the Chief of Naval Staff. Then you go on to the DPR and do the same thing. Then you go on to the Director General of NIMASA. But none of this was done. They simply came to our tank farm and ransacked and rummaged it, seized our people, really assaulted them, locked them up for days in the SS facility in Lagos here. And then subsequently on the following day, they carried on the plan and came not to get an official who would give clarification in respect of any questions that they had, but to pick up specifically myself and to situate me in this embarrassing context and create this impression that Captain Iheanacho, 60 years old, all the things that I've done in my life, that what I am now doing is breaking into oil pipelines and stealing products. What would I want to do that for? I've achieved almost everything I want to achieve in life, and I have no call whatsoever to deviate from the path of distinction that I have set for myself in life.